Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another session on the Archival and Awakening podcast. My name, as always, is Oladile Dosumo, and as always, we are here to awaken our consciousness and decolonize our minds. What we're talking about today is basically about the GMO seeds, as it's been one of the things that's basically been infiltrated into Nigeria, and particularly Africa as a collective. We have the set of corporations and people who are pushing the agenda in terms of GMO seeds and taking away our indigenous seeds away from us. So today we're talking about how we can push back, how the people and the government can actually work, how can we collectively work together to basically push back the GMO infiltration in Africa and in Nigeria. Once again, we've got Segun. If you want to introduce yourself to our audience, my brother, please.
All right. Morning, everyone. I hope I'm loud. I hope I'm clear. My name is Segun Adebayo, Dr. Segun, the Executive Director of the Center for African Policy Research and Advisory, and also the Deputy Director of the Center for Center for Food Safety and Agricultural Research. And we've been having these conversations across Africa and making it very strong in my home country, Nigeria. But it's a time when we need to keep this conversation on the front burner because it affects everyone. It affects, our future generation. It affects the kids. It affects our health. And, I tell people that the only problem you have is a health problem. Because the moment you have a health problem, every other problem is secondary. So, yeah. And this is something that directly impacts our health. So that's why we are keeping this conversation on the front border.
Okay, thank you, my brother. So, guys, like Segun said, we're basically trying to create the awareness because we cannot keep quiet because of what's going on. Everybody, they're basically doing this persistently, as Segun's been all over the social media, has been on different platforms, basically sharing this message. So, my brother, today, how can we help push this back? That's the first question. How do we push it back? How do we get people more engaged in this?
All right, thanks. I'm going to be looking at this from different angles. Being in the policy research space, one of the first things that we do is to study the real origin of problems. And we understand the importance of policies, and we know how important a policy can be on a society. So if we're going to fix a problem like the GMO problem we have in Africa, we're going to look at more creative solutions than just everyone farm, everyone. That's one of the popular things we've said in many spaces, that everyone should have a small farm. We've looked at the government having stopping the post-harvest laws. We've talked about regenerative agriculture. We've talked about agroecological practices. We've talked about ensuring that we have the right regulations and stuff. We've talked about this in many spaces at different times. But today, I'm going to be talking about solving this problem in a very unconventional way. And I really want everyone to pay attention because I'm going to take it right. So first things is, number one, we have a problem, a GMO problem in Africa. The problem we have in GMO is actually an indication of many other problems that are very similar that we have in Africa. And that problem is basically the lack of indigenous African research. That's it. Let's look at the biggest policy drivers currently in Africa, SDG goals. The SDG 2030, then you have the African 2063. Those are the two biggest policy documents that is currently driving Africa's development. And something I said to friends and colleagues at the 11th African Regional Sustainable Development uh, event, which held in Kampala, I think in April this year. Something I said to them, I said, we've been having these conversations for 11 years on how Africa has implemented the Sustainable Development Goals, how they should ramp it up, how they should push very harder and stuff. And 11 years down the line, we cannot look at a positive report on Africa's development on the same SDG goals. What's going on? This is the 11th year. At least we should see some glimmer of hope that working with the SDG goals, climate action, all these things, working with this focus should lead us somewhere. Or even the Agenda 2063, we should have some sort of respite to know that we are in the right direction. But how is it that um, Africa's situation is not looking like it's improving, and we keep using the same policy documents? The solution is in our research. I was at the AU in February, and I had a conversation with a friend of mine. I met him there, and we remained friends since then. And he said that he was a part of some of the conversations that led towards the 2063 document, the uh, the Africa We Want document, what African Union is currently working with. And he said that Africa's biggest problem is that we go to these policy conversations without an agenda.
I agree.
So you see the Asians are coming to conversations, and you see they're coming with experts, policy documents, they're coming with professors, they're coming with thought leaders, they're coming with people who are very interested in those fields when they are going for those kind of conversations. But in his words, he said that many times you see our African leaders go to these policy conversations with their friends, their girlfriends, their men friends.
Yeah, they're never serious, bro.
Right. They go with the wrong crowd. They don't go with experts. And they go without an agenda. They don't have something that they are pursuing. So at the end of the day, the people that go there with folders, you see them with their folders and all, they come there. They have something they want to give Africa. And we are there without first our own position on that conversation. So eventually, we have to now align to whatever it is they are giving to us. Let me ask you a question. What is Africa's carbon emission? It's about 3%. Then what is Africa doing with stringent policies to reduce carbon emission? Is that the most important thing for Africa at the moment?
It's not important at all because it's minuscule.
It's minuscule. So at the end of the day, why are we busy with it? The reason why you're busy with it is because when you went to that conversation, you went with nothing. And the guys who are trying to push their climate agenda, they have something to give to you. So eventually, you have to now dance to the policy documents that they give to you. So eventually, you are taking Panadol for another man's headache. So at the end of the day, you have nothing to take home to your people apart from what was given to you from over there. Lack of indigenous research is one of Africa's biggest problems. Then you now look at even the policy organizations within Africa. Who is funding all of them? There are people that have other policies that they want to push on African countries. Who are the advisors to African governments? I did a bit of research on many of these policy think tank funds, many of these policy organizations you have around Africa. They're doing a fantastic work. They started out very well. They want to really help Africa develop, want to have the best of advice for the African governments. But at the end of the day, when they begin to receive funding from um, other policy organizations that have become foundations, when they start receiving funding from those, they have to begin to adopt the policies of those organizations. Let me give an example. I'm not trying to say that I I am not sensitive to the gender conversation, but who brought the gender conversation? Is it really an
It's,
African
it's
conversation?
the West. It's the West.
It's the West.
They
Now,
basically drive you. Sorry, they drive you to where they want you to basically be. And I agree with you. We are not coming. So before you go any further, I'd like to ask a question.
yeah.
So what's wrong with us? Why do we not go to these conversations prepared? Why don't we
Um,
go there prepared? Have we got? It is that Africa has no plan for Africa at all.
so the reason why we don't go to these conversations prepared is, first of all, who are even the people going to the conversations? The local policymakers. How do they get into the offices? Because they could win elections, not because they are people who have been able to develop some blueprint for development. No, they won the election. How do you win the elections? Through maybe you have some money, you're able to mobilize grassroots
Yeah,
people
yeah,
and all, and then you buy the crowd, you put bread and water and chin and spaghetti into nylon bags, you give the people, you're able to give them some money, and you win the election. So how do you suddenly transit from becoming a politician, that kind of politician, to becoming a policymaker and a policy driver? What is the process? There is no process. So these guys are, to a very large extent, they have a lot of work to do. And before you even begin to go to the international policy conversations, locally, your local policy think tanks, think tank organizations, thought leaders, CSOs, and co. How are you engaging them? I personally, when you want to talk about solutions, sometimes we talk about solutions that are impracticable. But for instance, if you say you're not going to have politicians that will enter office like that, it's a lie. You always have politicians who will get into office that way. So what do you do to help those politicians? That's why we started an organization like the Center for African Policy Research and Advisory. So that, okay, you got into office, but your policy defective. It's not a problem. We would come to you. We would begin to show you what you need to do for your people. We would help you with the policy research. We would look into the things that are required. And this is where I always have to say this, that we don't have enough organizations who are doing this. We don't have enough. And um, when even the few you have, once you start taking funding
yeah.
from the guys outside, you have to dance
Basically,
their tune.
you get compromised.
You get compromised. Before you say one, two, three, they will tell you gender, 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 gender inclusion, gender equality, gender this. I remember in 2020 when we had the NSAS stuff here in Nigeria, we had our youths fighting police brutality. They had gotten to the peak. The youths were out in the streets. Everyone was upset. And in the midst of that very important movement that was going on in Nigeria, a certain organization just rose up called the Feminist Coalition. And these people just rose up from nowhere with a lot of money. And they were able to move the international community to be empathic towards the cause. So suddenly, because they could get the attention of the Beyonce, they could get the attention of the many people outside the country, a lot of people began to pay them attention. Then they started providing money, started providing funding. Quickly these guys were already in the limelight. They began to marshal the EndSARS movement. They began to coordinate it. Everyone was paying them attention because everybody was angry. They couldn't really look to see what was going on deeper. But some of us wouldn't miss that. And then we started calling the attention of everyone to say, look, these guys are hijacking this thing. And one day they now put up a post. I was just waiting for them. And then they put up a post and they said, um, I'm paraphrasing now. They said that this police brutality needs to stop. That the young people, the youths, the days, and even the people from the the queer community in Nigeria, they're also affected. That's why I said shake a bouncer and fought you guys. I said you had this agenda all along. You know, we were talking about police brutality here,
Yeah,
and
and they diverted
suddenly
it.
you bring out the LGBT agenda, and then they started pushing out tweets to say that the LGBT community are also under attack in Nigeria. And that's where some of us said, wool up, no. And then we started bringing people's attention to what was going on. In fact, they deleted one of those tweets then, but it had gone viral. People already began to see beyond the smoke screen. And that's just a classic example of how a
Wow.
movement, an agenda can be hijacked by foreign agendaists, you know? And that's just a classic example. That one is very clear to everyone to know that's how these things happen. So, bringing it home to the conversation we're having about GMOs, you have things like AGRA. I can't remember the full meaning of the acronym now, but AGRA is an organization started by Bill Gates also to intervene in Africa's agriculture. They came into Africa, new policies for Africa's agricultural development. And they didn't come to Nigeria straight because, you know, Nigeria is a market that you have to prepare for. But in the other African countries where they were, they failed woefully. They took it, and it's a monumental failure. Anybody that just searches Agra failures in 5, 10 seconds, you will see it. It's full on the internet. You know, how did the other African countries, how were they beguiled into Agra's manipulations? Simple. They didn't have their own blueprint, or they forsook their own blueprint because the white man comes with his money and he comes with his plans, comes with pie charts, bar charts, he gives you false projections, telling you that if you do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, you'll be here, here, here. It will bring economic prosperity. If you do that and do this. What he's not telling you is that that whole thing is going to be dependent on him.
On him,
So
yeah.
it puts him at the top of your food chain.
Yeah, it's basically, Segun, it's like the economic hitman situation.
Exactly. And many times it comes with a lot of
Strings attached.
yeah, and these guys fall for it. When they fall for it, those who don't fall for it eventually get blackmailed into it. You know, or they begin to work out how to take them out
What you're
of their.
talking about there, sorry, what you're talking about is very for me, because basically the work I do and what I've been observing, that's one of the biggest challenges facing Africans today. Because basically Africa has no plans for Africans, and at the same time, when people come from the outside, the fact that they come from the outside, people look at them in a kind of superior view, despite the fact that if we follow history and what the Caucasians have done to Africa, for a long time, they've never come to Africa with our interest at heart. So why
Exactly.
are we Africans not learning from history? What's wrong with us that we cannot see that it doesn't matter what they bring, it's not good for us?
Yeah. So it's our biggest problem, I'll tell you. And that's why I said if we're going to solve even this general problem, we're going to be looking at this thing in many other ways. First of all, what is our own indigenous policy direction? Are we just going to take, do we even have indigenous research? Are we studying? These guys came and said that they came with a theory that Africa's population is going to double by 2050, and that if the population doubles, we would have problems with food security. We would have problems feeding ourselves. So when they came up with this postulation, this is a theory. Then the next thing is after you come up with such theories, then they start developing policies based on these theories. So, and we saw it when the NBMA Director General in Nigeria was going to speak on this thing. The first thing she said was she quoted the theory that Africa's population is going to double by 2050. If you believe it, that means they got to already. They should produce their evidence-based research to prove to us that Africa's population is going to double by 2050, and they should also give us the evidence-based research that we will be unable to feed ourselves. Did they factor in our arable land? Did they factor in our regenerative agriculture? Did they factor in how our population grew to the point it currently is by feeding ourselves? Did they capture all these parameters before they came up with those postulations? And that's where it begins. So when you see your policymaker already believing that theory, you have a problem in your country. And that is what I mean by the lack of indigenous research. When they bring this foreign research to you, the first thing you do is critique it. Don't accept it like an idiot. And that's what has happened to Africa. Many of our leaders accept those theories. They tell you that there's global warming, there's climate change, and you believed. Did you ask them what the previous generation did about climate change? Did you ask them? Did you ask them, all the generations before now, what have they done about climate change? Did any of them vote in their budget for climate change? None of them did. So why is this different? Who is engineering the climate? Did you ask them about chemtrails? Did you ask them about weather manipulations? Because now you're telling us climate change. Did you ask them about the chemicals they're spraying in the atmosphere? Did you ask them why they are coming to Africa to build research facilities and will not allow Africans work in those research facilities? Did you ask them what they are doing in your parliament? Did you ask them what they are doing in your parliament, trying to coerce your government to collapse all your research centers, to put them into one, and for them to control the research center? Did you ask them about it? Because when you don't have your own research, you cannot have your own policies. That is it.
Wow. I think I lost you there, Segun.
So until we recognize that with our policy development framework, that is the problem. Straight from African Union, there is a problem. The policy development framework is defective. If you have these guys inside your policy development framework, then you have a big problem. And that is number one. The second one I'm going to talk about is our media. I'm going to talk about three today. So this is the second one.
Okay.
Media. Now, if you go on the internet today and you search poorest country in the world, as at last year, it was bringing up Burundi. Now, this year, it's bringing up South Sudan. The question is, who labeled them the poorest countries in the world?
Yeah. Whose parameters?
Whose parameters? What parameters? And what are we doing about that identity? Because as a man thinketh, so is he.
So is it? Yeah, I agree.
It would make a rich man beg when he's told that he's a poor man. It will make so when Africa believes that she's poor, anybody that has any sort of funding will become a policy driver in Africa. So the moment the media drums it into Africa, when they want to show pictures of Africa, they show the rural community. They don't want to show the developed part of Africa because there is a projection of Africa on the rest of the world, and there is also a projection of Africa on Africans. So the moment you watch it very often, they want to show you African countries. They're showing you dusty roads. They're showing you women by the marketplace. They're showing you children without clothes, with big stomach, dirt all over their body. They're showing you muddy terrains, and then that image begins to stick. It begins to stick, not just on the people outside, but even on yourself on the inside.
It's psychological.
It's psychological. Then they begin to say, it's just like when people say farmers are poor. I ask them, I say, how do you know farmers are poor? The man has a house in the village. His children.
He has his own land. He has his own land, though.
He has his own land. A lot of land. He has his own building. He has his own farm. He has his children that are working on the farm. The children are even going to a community school close by. These are things that the people in the city spend a lot of money to acquire. But because the man is told he's not living in the city and he's living in the suburb and he's
Yeah,
in the rural community.
the miseducation of the Negroes, my brother.
Exactly. So that's the problem. When the media begins to project what the foreign guys project on us, that is one of our biggest problems. We believe we're poor. We need aid. We're looking for. I was watching the president was. He said they want us to adopt climate change and all this gender stuff and all that, and they did not give us money. They need to give us money. You see, that is the problem. And the funny thing is that the money they are giving you, they took it from you. They just take a bit of it and they give it back to you. They will
Well,
never.
sorry, Segun. Those monies that they give you, basically, it's basically we don't touch it. It basically goes back to them.
Let me talk about the money. You see, I spoke to a particular guy in the Ministry of Forestry, sorry, the Ministry of Agriculture, and he said that when you see the headline that 100 million or 200 million was donated to, or 100 and $200 million was donated to agriculture, don't think that they brought the money. They brought the inputs, their products, the
Yeah,
products they want you to use.
yep,
Most times, the pesticides that will affect your crops, they bring
yep,
the agrochemicals that would make your crops susceptible to viral fungal attack. They give you pesticide that destroy your soil, but they've taken your stock out. So eventually, when your land is destroyed, you're unable to plant, you would have to now come back to them to buy what you originally had and then to come to you at a premium. And that's the ginger story in Nigeria in a nutshell. Ginger that used to be 25,000 per bag, I was even saying it's 550. I was being corrected online that it's actually 800,000 naira, from 25,000 naira to 800,000 naira. And that's even if you find it. It's not available anywhere. And that's the story of ginger in a nutshell in Nigeria. How pathetic, how sad. It comes from Pekin and it's free gifts. They want to give you something. And at the end of the day, they're taking far more than you could ever imagine from you. Until we realize that we are not poor in Africa, until we realize that we are not victims, until we realize that we have so much. That's why they keep coming. Until we realize that we are not beggars. We will keep seeing ourselves as the poor, we keep seeing ourselves as the needy, and we'll keep begging. And so that's the work of the media. We don't have our own. I mean, the they have CNN, they have BBC, they have Al Jazeera. What does Africa have? Nothing. And all these global media outfits are telling the African story, shaping the African narrative.
yeah,
How insulting! All the
yeah.
African presidents traveled to Japan for a meeting with Japan.
Imagine.
With Japan, that's. I mean, when you look at Japan on the map and you look at Africa on the map, you would quiver at
It's like
the at the
a little
picture,
dots.
a little dot, and all of them. I looked at all of them in that place and I said, "Do these people know who they are? They have no idea. How? How are you thinking? How? How could you reduce yourself so bad? Everyone is having Afro Summit. Even the Middle East will have theirs. You see them packing
Yeah,
African
look,
leaders.
look at the Middle East now, Shegun. Now Qatar, UAE, they're all coming to Africa now.
They're inviting, no, they're not even coming, they're inviting African leaders to their country. How shameful. They don't even realize. They don't even realize that uh, it's like it's so sad. And this is the problem. Identity. The third problem. I said I was going to talk about three. The
Yeah,
first is indigenous policies. The second is the media. We don't have the media platforms to project Africa correctly. And when you don't project Africa correctly, then you will find out that it leads to the kind of self awareness that Africa has, which is currently very poor. And then it leads to the migration of African youths out of Africa. And then
yeah,
coming down to identity, um, Identity is a function of education, formal or informal. And when the African is poorly educated, it's put in his
Bless you
mind.
there.
And the quality of what's in his mind is very poor. So at the end of the day, he has a bad identity. He doesn't know who he is. And that is the challenge. So when you have the wrong identity of yourself, the success measures of other countries will become your success measures. And by all standards, Africa is behind. So you will now see yourself behind according to their standards. According to their standards. But what does Africa want? What should Africa need at this time? How should Africa operate? That is where it goes back to our policy. This is a circle. It goes back to our policy research. Because if we don't study into what Africa needs, we will keep manufacturing for the West.
Yeah.
And that's why you
Things we
see
don't need.
today our educational system is
Yeah.
currently um,
Colonial.
it's colonial. You have it's proliferated with Western curriculum. So when the children are done studying here in the West, in Africa,
They
they go
go
to
they
the
go
West.
abroad
Yes. So
because it's not good. Basically, education is not good for fit for Africa.
no, it's not. And you see the media already is pouring. The media is so the child wakes up in the morning, from morning till night, everything is Western.
Yeah.
It's the media, the education, everything. The fish will only go to its habitat. That's why eventually the child goes to the West. You know. And then how do you develop when
Wow.
you're when everyone is flying out, is leaving? What is the hope for Africa? And you see, this is why we started this organization, the Center for African Policy, because we need to start creatively looking at the problems. By now, we started this conversation on the pushback of GMOs. Now we are linking it to bigger problems because we find that all the problems in Africa are from these things. Why would you accept GMO seeds when or GMO technology or biotechnology when you have vast arable land to generate your own natural seeds? Why would you accept it in the first place? If not that you believe the wrong theory and then you accepted the policies and the research from that theory. Africa has no business with the LCD goals as they are. The
I
implementation of
agree.
the LCD goals, Africa has no business with it. Africa has no business running the rat race of Agenda 2063 as interpreted to them by the West.
I agree.
And until we correct these things, Africa will remain under. And not just the GMOs, but in everything. We can look at for instance, now we are keeping the pressure on because of public opinion. We're trying to ensure that the public opinion and the public awareness and knowledge
Yeah, you're
on
doing great, my brother. You're actually
agriculture
doing very, very well.
is
Very, very well.
thank you. We're doing our best to ensure that everyone is educated. I have been to every platform as much as possible. The gossip platform, the last one I was on. In fact, when I was invited to that platform, I thought about it
Honest
for almost
bunch.
yeah, honest bunch. I thought about it for
Yeah.
about 3 weeks because I never imagined myself. That's one of the platforms that I used to criticize as part of the
Yeah.
problems of Africa. I said, when all our youths are being desensitized on platforms like that, how are we going to move forward? And then they invited me, and I said, hold on, wait a second. What exactly am I going to do there? You know, I thought about it for a while, and then
Yeah. It's a
first, now,
good. It's a good
I
move.
literally had to do a poll. I have a think tank that I'm currently I'm with. I founded a think tank, and I had to do a poll on the think tank, and I said, "Okay, guys, I've been invited to Honest Bunch. What do I do?" And I put up a poll, and about 60 people said go, and about three said don't go. Then I did the poll again on another platform, smaller platform, and they said I should go. Even after I had to visit the person, and I said, "Why do you think I shouldn't go?" And I heard everything, and then I said, "Yeah, I'm going to go." And then I went, and it was a beautiful interview. And no one goes to that platform and comes out the same. They will drag you, they will insult you, you know, it's out there. You never recover from it. It's a reputable platform for that. But I'm grateful to God that I went there and were able to use the platform to communicate as much as we have communicated. And being on this your platform also, when we had the part one, I looked at the feedback, the number of people that were getting, especially from LinkedIn and Instagram. When I looked at the people who were coming into awareness of what we're talking about, a couple of people reached out to me. I was like, if you would like to be a part of what you're doing, you know, I said, okay, I haven't given a lot of them feedback yet, but I mean, the awareness is reaching. For now, it's the awareness, and we are going to go from there very shortly. One of the things I really want to do, I really, really want to do, I think I should say it here. I want to open up opportunities for anybody, anywhere to contribute to policy development. I want to do that. I want to create inroads to parliament, inroads to governments, and conduit the contributions of our people on the internet into this conduit, into these inroads for us to build policy documents that are really from the people, and then we take it to these parliaments. That's part of our strategy for policy development and policy research at the Center for African Policy Research. It's a new organization. We started this year. We're still building all the structures, everything coming into piece. But definitely, we would need everyone's support. One of the things we want to also do is to look at how we can be funded by ourselves, so we
Yes.
don't depend on the guys who just come and say, okay, what are you guys doing there? So you want to do this? Okay, okay. We just say, okay, how much is everything? And then they give us the money and we have to dance to their tune. We're not going to do that. We'll rather close shop than do that. So we're looking at how we can own our narratives by owning all our funding to do the things that we have to do. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Segun, and basically what you just said there, you basically summarized the whole challenge that's facing Africa. It's basically we are being pushed from left to right, right to everybody's just pushing us, basically pushing the agenda on us. And we as
Yeah,
Africans haven't got a clue of where. And I always ask this question: who are you as an African? Without
right.
the outside influence, who are you as an African? How do you see yourself as an African? How do you portray yourself as an African without the narrative that's being created for us? And that's basically one of our biggest challenges in Africa today, because basically everybody tells us who we are, but we don't know who we are. Hello, Shagun. Hello. I think I lost you there. Shagun, I lost you. Just bear with us, guys. I think I lost him there for a few seconds. Just bear with me. So I bring him back in. Hello, Shagun. I lost you. Just bear with us, guys. And basically, the conversation, as you can see, Shegun's basically is a policy maker in Nigeria. He's basically into the research in terms of how policies should be driven in Africa today. And basically, what he's doing is basically creating a think tank, an organization that's basically going to create policies, because every policy that we follow in Africa today is not driven by us. It's basically driven by people from the outside. It's driven for people who are outside coming in.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay, let me a second. Let me check everything. Oops. Hold on. Bring you back. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah,
Hello.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Right. I had to switch. I had
Okay.
to switch devices. The other one
Okay.
ran out of juice.
Okay.
So, so you said. So you asked a question just before I went off on that particular device.
Yeah. So the question is, who are we as Africans? Why do we always have to fit into the narratives created by outsiders? Why? And you, as a policymaker, my brother, and the question I'm going to ask you is, how do you've already you touched on it, but we're talking about solutions here. Give us solutions in terms of policy advocacy. How do we Africans actually take control of our own policies and stop allowing outsiders to keep coming to dictate to us? Because that's one of the, based on what you said today, that's one of the biggest challenges facing us. How do we do that?
Yeah, so first, we must own our funding. We must have people from Africa who mean Africa well. They must contribute to funding our policy development. We must prioritize research. You know, one thing I want to do across Africa is to push a Indigenous Research Prioritization Act, where Africa must prioritize indigenous research. Because if you don't have indigenous research, you would not have indigenous solutions. So that's one of the things that we need to do. I want to prioritize it to make it create awareness for it. Let us become aware that we need to have an indigenous research, and we should stop suppressing African research. If we go to our universities, across all our universities, most of our graduates did beautiful research before they graduated, but it's just dusty there. No one is putting it out there because they don't want it to come out. You know, it's useless to the West. So they need theirs to prevail on Africa. So the moment their recommendations and conclusions from their own research are more important than the recommendations and conclusions in our research from our universities in Africa, we have lost footing. We have lost it. And that's what we need to do. We need to recognize that there is a problem, and we need to begin creating solutions to that problem. And what I've said today, it's not something that people hear often. When people want to talk about Africa's problem, the first thing they say is that the leaders are corrupt. Africa is suffering from bad leadership. That's the first thing they all say. And I would say this, that I'm not trying to excuse any leader, but no one actually goes into office with the intent to suffer his people. I don't think, except maybe the person is cursed and he has a diabolic mission. Most times, they want to make a difference. They want to contribute positively. But then they get there, they find out that the constitution, the policies that are given to them to work with, have tied their hands. Then they're like on a cross. The left hand is tied, the right hand is tied, the feet are tied, and they have to find meaning in the 4 years or the 6 years that they have to rule the people. They have to find a way. And then they begin the back and forth. And the guys who did all of that hard work in imprisoning and capturing the policies of that country, they are still there. They are still advising the parliaments to ensure that the puppets don't break out of the puppet strings. They are still in the parliament. So this is the problem. And until Africa realizes that this is the problem, we are going nowhere. And that's the reason why we are doing what we're doing. That's the reason why we are talking. And I can beat my hand on my chest to say that what I've said now is not what you hear every day. It's not what people come to say. We have a lot of talkers in Africa who come and talk about the leaders, talk about the corruption, talk about this. You're talking about the results of these things. That's what you're talking about. It's the result of these things. The corruption is created intentionally by these things. The corruption is aided because once the leaders start getting corrupt, once the leaders start siphoning money out of the continent, they have debt on them. And once they have debt on you, they can blackmail you.
Yeah.
So that's the
So,
problem.
Segun, people don't realize that the system that we follow, the democracy, has corruption built into it. The moment you get into it, the moment you get sucked into it, basically that's it, you're done for. Because basically you become part of the system. Corrupt, like you said, now you become complicit to the problem, and they're gonna hold you against you. That's why politics is dirty. Okay, so for us who are not politicians, you're a policymaker, and I love what you're doing. So how do we more people get involved in this? Because we need basically I talk on this channel all the time. People watching me on LinkedIn, they know we're talking about this all the time because I'm sick and tired and tired and sick of people from the outside coming to dictate to us what should we be doing for ourselves. Talk to our African people. What should we be doing for ourselves? You know, you talked about certain things, but how do we? Because it's annoying. You know,
Yeah,
I'm an elder. I know you're probably in your late 40s if I'm right. Yeah, and we got the generation coming. We got the
yeah.
generation coming behind us who are looking to, for example, or how we can move the continent forward, and we're not giving them anything. We're
Yeah.
not.
So, okay, first, I hit 40. I hit 40 this year. So I'm
Oh,
pretty
okay.
young.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
I overaged you then. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, because you know, at my birthday, I had quite a big birthday, and then someone I really look up to at my birthday was like, she said, "You're just 40, like you're just 40." Because um, I have been quite involved in many things for many years. For many years in my 20s,
Mm,
I've been doing a lot. I have intentionally stayed away from the limelight. I contribute to people getting on the limelight. So I intentionally stayed away from it. But with what's going on, I had to step out. Anyways,
mm,
what can we do? What can we do in Africa to, what can we do? What opportunities are there for us to change it? First, mobilization. We need to mobilize ourselves. And that's what we're doing. That's why you're even watching this. We need to mobilize. If you're, I get a lot of how can I help? How can I get involved? In my DMs, I get a lot, you know, almost every day. One thing I do is I leave it for a while, not because I want to delay it, but I want to be sure of your passion. I want to be sure that it's not just because you heard me once. If you come a second, a third, and a fourth time, third and fourth time, you may even start getting upset. Then I know that you're ready. I'm saying this now because right now maybe you're listening, you DM'd me
yeah.
and I ignored it. I didn't ignore it, I saw it. I'm just waiting to see if you will do something. Many of the people that DM me, I check all their handles, I check their pages, I indulge, I look at everything they do, what they talk about. I see if they even have more conversations on that on what they DM me about. Then after a while, if you don't talk about it, then I won't reach out to you. If you don't reach out another time, I won't, you know, because uh, I would only bring very close those who it's strong in their hearts to change
Yeah.
Africa. When I started talking about this GMO thing, January last year, I told the people in the think tank that I founded, which I founded 5 years ago actually. I told them that this is going to be a long conversation. We're going to be on this for a while.
Yeah.
It's not one of those things that we talk about and then we leave. This one, we're going to follow this one everywhere it goes. I said it to them. And this is almost 2 years after I said that. And I'm still talking about it. Am I getting tired? Do I feel fatigue? I'm on space now, I'm on TV, I'm on radio, everywhere. Even very small blogs that have 100 subscribers. Sometimes I go there. Because even if it's one person that needs to hear what I have to say, it's
I
important.
agree. I agree.
That is passion. And if you're going to match that passion, I should see it in you. So we need to mobilize at different levels. There are some that want to mobilize with their resources. You want to fund what you're doing. You want to contribute. You want to be a part of it. That also will play. I would not, of course, you say you. I would not jump at it also because we really, as much as we need, as much resources. You know, Resource, even Bill Gates is lobbying people for money. Bill Gates is mobilizing for money also. In 2009, he had his biggest mobilization strategy, where he made top American billionaires pledge half of their wealth towards these things that he's doing. And that's why he's getting the funding he's getting for all these things he's doing. It's not his personal money. Don't think it's his personal money. He's spending the money of other billionaires. He had that mobilization May 5th, I think, 2009. And you had a Winfrey, you had Ted Turner, you had many of them, Warren Buffett, Soros, David Rockefeller, and Bill Gates. They were all there, and several, about 40 of them. Now they've grown to over about 200 or 300 of them, even with Africans in it. I was shocked. I saw Strife Masiyiwa is there also,
Yeah, yeah,
and several others of them,
yeah. Quite
So,
a few. We don't want to name names, but I've done some research on that. And I know a lot of Africans are part of this. So yeah, sadly.
yeah, so, and, then again, they could be a part of it, but like I say, maybe for other strategic reasons, business interests and stuff. But it's important that they know that what they are contributing to is doing more harm than good. So even Bill Gates is mobilizing for funds. So he's been trying to get Elon Musk also to fund his things, but Elon is not having any of that. He's been trying to get some other billionaires. He's mobilizing everywhere, trying to get funds in. And one thing about having billionaires fund what you do, it does two things. One, it eliminates future competition because the only people that can mobilize against Bill
They run
Gates,
it together. Yeah.
yes, it's other billionaires. It's not the governments, it's other billionaires. If the other billionaires, if right now he has maybe 300 billionaires, and you have 500 other billionaires that mobilize to say, we need to stop what this guy is doing, that's the end of Bill Gates. That's the end of what the trash is doing. So he's aware. So he's trying to get all of them into his corner so that they don't mobilize against him later on. That's just intelligence, really. You have to give it to the genius. He's smart, you know. And that makes a lot of sense. So we on the other side, what are we doing? That's it. If we are not mobilizing resources, if we're not mobilizing both financial resources, if we're not mobilizing human resource, if we're
Human
not
capital.
mobilizing intellect, then what are we doing? We need to mobilize. We need to come together. We need to um, we need to align in the movement to liberate Africa. So we need to mobilize. That's one very important thing that I would say here. Then let's have more organizations. Let's start up more organizations. I literally has at just recently, I was just any other guy behind the desk that goes to work every morning. I have a lot of ties. I can bring all my ties here. I used to wear suit a lot.
In a second, I gotta say you know what? That's something we Africans do in Nigeria that really pisses me off. Why do you go to office with a tie? You're African. Why don't you go to Nigeria your office with as an African?
You see,
That's a challenge, my brother. You can go as
very
yourself. You
important.
don't have to go in a tie.
Very
That
important.
corporate that Oyinbo corporate thing needs to be. I've been wanting to say this all the time. When I'm in Nigeria, it actually pisses me off. And this is a decolonization of the mind that we need to do. Anyway, that's by the by.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you look at, I'm very conscious of what I wear. Very conscious. If you look at what I'm wearing, you will know
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
African print.
yeah,
The last one I was on was also African.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I am very conscious of it. And if I wear a suit at a time, maybe it's just for the feeling of it. Maybe I just want
Okay,
to. I like it for that moment. But
fair
even
enough.
in fact, let me even add this. I actually also have a fashion house. I have a fashion house in one of the highbrow areas in Lagos here in Nigeria,
Okay,
and
okay.
they make all my outfits. So I'm at liberty. I can tell them anything I want to wear, and they will wax it out. Very solid guys. So if you look at, I wear corporates that are not that are quite African. They look. If you look at me very well, my but you know the culture of wearing the tie, the suit, and stuff. It's ingrained into Africans, and we need to start. I mean, look at what Burkina Faso did. The guy said all the judges should stop wearing the British
Yeah, well,
wigs and those
yeah, yeah.
colonial wigs and stuff. They should put on the African attire. That's the decolonization of the African mind. And we need to do it and look good in it. We need to do it and and look very handsome in it, look beautiful in it. We don't have to look like them. Look at what our women have done with their outfits.
Oh,
Now everyone is copying it. You see white women wearing the stuff. You see them trying to. I mean, that's it. Look at what our musicians are doing with the music. They're exporting it now. You see Chris Brown is singing in pidgin English. He's singing Yoruba. You see what they're doing now. That's how it's supposed to be. But they're fighting that. You know they're fighting that. Don't you know they're fighting that.
yeah. Because
The last
basically, yeah,
Coachella, the
yeah. I
Coachella
know.
is they're trying to screen out African artists from going to the Coachella. I mean, they're not happy with how Afrobeat and the African sound is I mean is overshadowing their pop music and stuff, the things that they like to do. So because I played in the music space, and that's another thing. I also I used to manage and consult for artists. So I did a lot in
Okay.
the musical space, a whole lot. I can talk about the music industry for hours and hours, but I look at the fact that Africa is dominating, Africa is rising. So you know what they do? What they do is they just take the African artist, then they give him a world tour. And then as he's doing the world tour, they
Yeah.
start tweaking his sound. Then
Yeah.
he's now starts trying to sound like them. He's now
Yeah.
trying to appeal to them. And
Yeah.
then he forgets the audience. And then when he's done with the world tour, he's tired. He doesn't know how to come back home and appeal to his Nigerian audience. And then he starts losing popularity. That is the typical story of Africa's Afrobeats at the moment. That's how many of them are currently just stuttering. So you see, it's the same thing. It's the same thing everywhere. So when you want to fix these things, and I was in a music space, and I said the same thing. I said the reason why African music isn't, you know, growing organically or growing intentionally is because there is no indigenous research into it. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. If we have a research, we study Fela. I listened to Ricky Stein, Fela's manager, and I listened to him once. I met him, the guy who actually discovered Fela. We met at an event, very small event, and then when he said this thing, and I'm going to say it now, I thought about it for a minute. I said, wait a minute, Fela was a lot. Fela's music would last for 30, 40 minutes, 1 hour, one track.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And the guy said when he wanted to start promoting Fela, that because the radio stations only do 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 2 minutes, what part of the 40 minutes, 30 minutes is he going to cut out and take to the station? That it was a big problem, you know? And he started trying to get Fela to reduce the tracks to fit into those stations. And Fela refused. He refused, sticking to his guns. Look at the name Fela today.
Yeah.
And they will sit down and listen to the 1 hour, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. We don't have such going on today. We don't. We really don't. People
No.
don't know. I did a bit of stuff for Seun Kuti, Fela's child, Fela's son.
Okay.
Everyone knows
Yeah.
Seun. I did, I
Yeah.
did, I
Yeah.
did a couple of stuff for
It's been on
Seun.
the podcast before, so we're friends. So yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes, he has.
I
Yeah.
did some stuff for Seun one time. I tried to bring up his brand more visible and stuff. And that's when I was in the music space and all. And very smart guy, very smart guy, very smart guy, you know. And I realized that his music is not gaining as much as Fela's music simply because um, the music industry has built has built away from it. So you find out that there is very little media on that kind of music, which mostly appeals to physical audiences at festivals, at events. That's why the guy is overbooked. He's fully overbooked, but there is very little media appreciation for what he does. He does it even till now. He still doesn't have a very structured YouTube channel. You know, he doesn't
Yeah,
have till now.
I think it's getting one now. It's basically started a podcast about just about a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, he's doing some stuff. Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
getting
maybe I'll
structured.
just reach out to him.
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
something I did. I sent it to one of his managers recently.
yeah, yeah,
But that's by the way.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm wondering what our audience is. I'm wondering what they're thinking right now because they're like, we started GMOs. This guy is
Yeah,
entering into
yeah, yeah.
music.
But because the conversation basically links into everything, and this is basically, guys, if you're listening, you're wondering what we're talking about how we can structure our organizations, everything from our music, from to our food, to our education. It's all linked together. If we don't control it, and this is basically why the narrative is flipped upside down because we don't own our own spaces, and that's what we're talking about. Shegun is just, is linking everything together. Carry on, Shegun. We're gonna round up now
All
anyway.
right. Thank you. So, when people say you are Pan African, or I say I'm Pan African, you know, it means that you understand Africa, you
Mm,
understand what Africa needs, and
mm,
you understand what Africa needs to rise, and that's why it looks like I am going all around. So
yeah,
the GMO conversation is actually not in isolation of the African problem. It's not in isolation at all, you know, and I use the German conversation to go into the bigger and the broader problems with Africa. That's why it looks like we're going wide. We've talked about
yeah,
migration. We've talked about why our people are migrating, the faulty educational system. We've talked about the agricultural space. We've talked about the African identity, and we've talked about even the clothes, the African outfits and stuff. And bringing it home to anyone who's watching this podcast at this time, you need to realize that even though you're in diaspora, I'll speak specifically to those in diaspora. You may be out there in the diaspora feeling that you're far removed from the African problem. Let me tell you, you cannot change. I don't know the kind of um, I don't know the kind of technology you're going to use to turn yourself from being black to white. It's not going to happen. That means you're not removed from the African identity problem. Wherever you go, people remember you that you're an African and they will treat you as such wherever you find yourself. So if you don't join us in fixing Africa, you're also contributing to losing your identity. You will be remembered poorly. Your homeland will be remembered poorly. And you have to join the movement. I see a lot of people, a couple of people in diaspora who feel like, oh, we've escaped from the dungeon of Africa. We've escaped. Everyone needs to find a way to escape. Look, you didn't escape. You didn't at all. You have to join what is going on. You have to contribute. Look at what China did. What did the CCP do? They sent their people all around, learned and came back. So when are you coming back? When are you going to get involved? When are you going to contribute? I find that some of our people in diaspora actually have more, they are um, they are more racist than even the whites towards their fellow brothers in Africa. I see it. You know, they come to Africa and they're like, such a dump. I'm like,
yeah.
did you come where you came from? What are you
It's a,
doing to
it,
fix it?
it's basically a colonized mindset, my brother, man, and
Colonized,
it
man.
does get some it does get to me because we Africans then we self-loathe ourselves. I call it self-hate, which needs to stop.
It needs to stop.
It needs to stop.
So
Yeah,
we need to mobilize, and that's why I'm still on the point of mobilization. You guys in the
yeah,
diaspora need to get involved. And there are a couple of events that are coming. Maybe I should mention this one.
okay, please do.
Elevate. There is one in Burkina Faso. It's holding next month. It's organized by Ambassador
Yeah,
Arikana. She's very proud.
we're part of that actually. Our brother, what's his name? Joshua
Mapunga.
Mapunga is going because Joshua Mapunga is I'm part of Mapunga's team. So
Oh wow,
he's gonna be there. So yeah, so we're aware of that, and he's actually coming to London soon. Actually, Mapunga is coming to London, so we're
oh
bringing him
that's
to
cool.
London.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. So
I like
yeah,
to make one of these days on the space. So
So
that's
yeah, so
so we
he's
have
gonna
that.
be there. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
great.
he's gonna be there.
So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have that. Then, but before I think we also have Elevate Africa.
Okay,
Elevate Africa is holding in Gaborone, Botswana, on the 30th and 31st of 30th and 31st of October. It's organized by the King and Queen, the Royal Majesty from Warri Kingdom. It's organized by them
okay.
in Botswana. Imagine they're taking such an event to Botswana. And the first one held last year in Abuja, and the second one is that's the one that Davido was a speaker at it, and the second one is holding 30th and 31st of October in Botswana. I'm involved in that event. I was appointed.
Okay.
I'm on the board of that event, and we're doing a lot to make it a wonderful one. So yeah. So if you're in diaspora and you hear about this event, reach out to us. How do you want to be a part of it? How do you want to attend? Because you will meet some of us in person where we talk about how some of the things that we can discuss online on how we are working to make Africa a better place.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
My camera seems to be playing up, but we're running up now anyway.
All right.
For
Cool.
people who want to contact you, just leave your handles. Just tell us your handles. How can people reach out to you? For those of you,
All
and
right.
I'm just going to conclude, guys, before you go, Segun. We're doing this
All
to
right.
create
That's cool.
awareness. We are doing this to create awareness. We're not doing it for the sake of doing it, because we need to know what's going on. And Segun has
Yeah.
gone through basically a lot of things, just tell us exactly how infiltrated our systems are. So, guys, we're not doing it for the sake of talking alone. It's basically a call to action. We need to basically get off our backsides and start being the solution of the Africa we want to see. Because us talking and complaining is not going to help us. And like you had Segun say, if you're a diasporan, don't bring a colonized mind to Africa. Bring a mindset that's basically going to help Africa. That's basically what we're looking for, and that's what we're doing. That's basically what I'm doing as well. Going back home to do what's going to make Africa different. So, Segun, finally, just your handles, please.
All right. So you can follow me on Instagram at PSHGS Pshegs, on Facebook Pshegs, on X Pshegs. It's the same Shegs.
GS.
It's the
Okay.
same on all three platforms. Then I think on TikTok it's Dr. Pshegs, Dr. Pshegs. So but I'm not very active on TikTok. I'm still trying to figure out how that platform
Yeah,
works.
yeah. We're basically. I mean, you know what? One of these days, Segun, we do TikTok live. I might want to bring you on because we have a
All
huge
right.
following on TikTok. So maybe sort out
Amazing.
your TikTok.
I
Yeah,
think I'll look forward to it. Let's do it. Let's do it
yeah.
soon.
Because we got 180,000 followers on TikTok now.
Whoa. Oh,
So
let's do it. Let's do it soon.
let's
Let's
okay.
do it
Well,
soon.
I'll link you up and we can do that. Let's do that. Yeah, I think that's great. That's gonna great. It's good having this conversation. Okay, my
Great, great.
brother. It's been a pleasure as always, man.
Thank
Guys,
you.
thank you for
Thank you
joining.
so
Thank you for
much.
watching. Yeah, and we'll see you soon. Thank you
All
very
right
much.
then. Bye for now.
Bye.